Hello, everyone. This is Lenard Guzman here with Emily Robinson on the Modern Divorce Podcast. It's March 1st. Happy March, Emily.
Happy
March is
St.
kind of
Patty's
like,
Day.
yeah, it's kind of like the month after all the holidays, and now it's kind of like the next thing I think is like you said, St. Patrick's Day, uh,
Yeah,
corned beef. I remember the corned beef days,
love
um,
corned beef. I like
and
March. I
then
feel like I feel like January and February are kind of depressing because you have the holiday letdown and it's cold and then things start to like turn in March, like spring's coming and you know, I don't know. So
and then
I
yeah.
feel like moods improve around March.
And then the next thing is taxes. So if you turn
Oh,
them in earlier, so I'm sure that has to do with kind of you getting calls because kind of probably has to with the child tax credit coming up and all this fun stuff. So hey, here in Los Angeles, I hear there's a mandate that's going to be lifted for children with masks. Have you heard of this?
yes. Yes, yeah, I just got an email from the school too, starting I think it's the 12th, March 12th. They don't have to wear masks in class anymore. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, you can do it voluntarily, but you're not going to be required to. But counties can choose, I think, to continue to do it if they want.
Oh,
But my kids' school, which is in Ventura County there, they've already said that it's going to be optional if the kids wear the masks or not,
yeah.
regardless of vaccination status.
Oh, okay. So this is, I think we're coming close to the endemic.
Yes, I hope we're coming close to the end. I'm so tired of this.
All right. All right. Let's end the topic then. So let's get into the part of the show where we go over trends we see on Google, whether it's celebrity news, whether it's financial things we see on like CNBC, and then some other interesting topics. So, man, Hulk Hogan is dominating the news today. So Hulk Hogan, wrestler. I don't know how old this guy is now. I don't know if he's still wrestling, but so um, so Hulk Hogan, according to TMZ.com, had to buy ex-wife a car in divorce settlement. So Hulk Hogan's turning the page after his second divorce and is on his second divorce, and his ex-wife is doing the same with a new set of wheels that were part of the deal, as they say when they agreed to part ways. The pro wrestling icon came to the agreement with Jennifer McDaniel when they finalized their divorce last year, which flew under the radar until he announced it this week. And one key point of negotiations were that was making sure JMD had a brand new ride. So according to legal docs obtained by TMZ, Hulk and Jen's divorce settlement calls for Hulk to buy a new car within 45 days and guarantees she has to make zero payments on the vehicle. So the make and model weren't addressed in the paperwork, but a condition of the purchase is Hulk gets to keep the ride they'd shared during the marriage. So it
Oh,
proves everything's negotiable, right? So why would they
right.
do this to like sweeten the or speed things up, make things better? How does this all shake down?
Well, you can agree to anything you want in divorce for the most part, which is nice because sometimes what you want isn't something that a court would typically do or that somebody else would want. So people do this all the time. Like if that was really important to her and he's willing to do it, great. And sometimes, honestly, it's less painful to make the car payment than it is to pay alimony or, write the check to the car company, instead or pay less alimony and pay something to the car company. But people do this kind of stuff a lot. They make agreements to pay for college, or various things like that because that's something that's very important to them, but it's not something the court would normally do. And that's one of the nice things about settling outside of court is you can do that. You can tailor the terms to whatever makes you and your ex happy or whatever, you guys feel benefits your dynamic. You don't have to just follow the typical split everything down the middle. And if that car kept them out of court and saved, hundreds of thousands of dollars of attorney fees, then it was probably worth it.
All right, next topic. So this next article proves like, children of divorce, no matter who they are, even if they're older, like adults, they still get affected by it. So according to the New York Post, so Steph Curry, so his parents, I guess, went through a recently gotten divorced, and he's like one of the biggest stars of the NBA. So he opens up about the divorce. So 6 months after Steph Curry's parents, Sonia and Del Curry, split, the point guard still addressing the situation. So in an interview with The Ringer published early this month, Curry said navigating his parents' divorce after 33 years of marriage has been challenging. I would be mad and be like, y'all F this up. I could have that approach, but it's going to be an acknowledgement of both of y'all in terms of how you raised me. The calmness I have in myself is because of y'all. So the news of his parents' breakup broke last August and shocked the NBA fans that know how much of a staple Sonia and Dell have been at their son's game. So last December, the exes were in attendance but sat separately at Madison Square Garden when Curry became the all-time NBA leading scorer. So I had to make sure I was in that moment with both of them separately, and this wasn't just this kind of thing that is how I choose to approach it because it's challenging. It's kind of awkward because it's like, I mean, at his status, even it's all public, and it's like, I'm pretty sure like you kind of have to pick. You're more favorable as children. You're more favorable to like your mom or your dad. So,
Yeah, that's always an awkward situation. I mean, especially, for kids, but for adults too. I mean, what do you do like at your wedding or at special family occasions? Especially if your parents aren't getting along. And we're all human, we always have emotions, and even when we're grown-ups, it's still going to be hard for your parents to split. And I'm a very big proponent of counseling and therapy and mentorship and having someone to talk to that's been through this or has experience with things like this, because even as adults, like, we can't do this alone. It's stressful and hard and emotional. And, you know, you don't want to have to take sides with your parents. And the split is still going to affect you, even if you're famous or an adult or rich. It doesn't matter because you're still a human. It's still hard.
okay, here's one from refinery29.com. So this one's about okay, I'm getting divorced and I have 80K of student loan debt. How should we split it? Let me kind of break down the article a little more. So my husband and I have been together for 30 years, married for 20. We have 3 kids. He refused to work since our kids' first child was born 18 years ago, claiming to be a stay-at-home dad. Even though our kids were always in daycare, preschool, or regular school, we've been separated for the past 2 years, but not legally. I have around 80K in student loans, all of which were incurred during the marriage. So they're community property. I work for the government, so these loans should be eligible for forgiveness, except that my HR department never took me out of default status. So apparently for all this time, I haven't been paying my loans on an acceptable payment plan, even though my money has been coming out of my paycheck every month. So my husband doesn't want to be responsible for half these loans, so he wants to wait for this to be cleared up before getting divorced. I also have a government pension in which I've contributed about 80K. He'll be entitled to half of the amount for the time we were married. So I'm thinking about divorcing him now to minimize that loss. One more thing, we own no property and we have a paid off car of roughly the same value. The kids live with me and I support them fully. I pay his rent of $1,200 and we've agreed to keep all of that the same. What would an equitable way to split the student loans and pension plan be? And if we divorce later, would it be better? How should I move forward with this?
Wow. Well, there are so many layers there. There's no way we could deconstruct that whole thing now.
Just
But
do one.
the general rule is that with pension plans, he's entitled to half of whatever was accrued during the marriage time. And the time they were together prior to marriage doesn't count. So it's just the married years. It's not even though they were together like 10 years longer than they were married or something, that time wouldn't count. As far as student loans, the law on those is typically that um, they're going to get paid by the person who incurred them if you were married less than 10 years from when they were incurred. If you were been married more than 10 years from when they were incurred, then a lot of times the court will split them because it's considered that the other person, the other spouse, has had the benefit of that education. So if I go to law school while I'm married and then I divorce 20 years later, it's assumed that my husband got the benefit of my law school education because I helped pay bills and things like that in my work as a lawyer. And so he'd probably have to pay some of my student loans. But it's also discretionary to the court to some degree. So for situations like that, I mean, I would certainly recommend get legal advice because there's a lot of factors going on there. You can balance out the support obligation, the child support, spousal support with the debts, make deals, try to, maybe go to mediation and come up with something everyone thinks is fair.
Okay, next one is kind of a mental health one by psychologytoday.com. The top 3 rude awakenings of divorce. Splitting up can be challenging, but did you know it would be this challenging? So the first rude awakening, number one, the cost of it all. So when Mariah opened her utility bill, she nearly fell over. It was nearly $400 in her entire 28-year marriage. She had never had to pay the bills, nor had she ever known of any details of what things cost. Yeah, she was surprised with this. Unfortunately, the scene is common. The high cost of living is perhaps the most dramatic rude awakening, especially if one of the spouses never dealt with the money or never had to pay the bills. Rude awakening number 2, the reality of running a household. Anyone who has ever run a corporation knows that they have to learn how to spin a lot of plates in the time in the air at the same time. Multiply that by about 20, and that's what running a household is like. Number 3, dreaded dating. Dating is an area that people generally feel apprehensive about when their marriage ends, but they can't know how challenging it is until they are out there in the dating scene. Dating can feel like trying to find a needle in the haystack. So what comes to mind?
Well, I mean, I think that's true. There are a lot of surprises in divorce, and people many times think the grass is always greener on the other side, but it's not. Like, it's not easy to be a single parent. It's not easy to have to start dating again. It's not easy to, do a lot of the things on your own that you didn't realize maybe that you were doing on your own. Um, you know, but people get divorced every day and they find ways to make it through. And if you're truly unhappy, then it may be the right answer for you. Also, it doesn't have to be so expensive. It can be if you're going to fight a lot and litigate, but it doesn't have to be. You can do a divorce for a couple $1,000s if you just need people to do your paperwork and, you know, you two can work things out as, much as possible between the two of you. So you control the process. And that's what I think people have to remember is you have control over the process. You just have to use it and have good advice to know how to use it.
All right, so let's get into the part of the show. Oh man, you've covered so many topics. Are you getting tired, Emily?
I'm good.
So let's get into our show where we ask Emily more things, where she gives us advice about, getting started in the divorce journey. Some child custody things come up, uh, like we were talking about, more financial things. But these are in particular, people's questions here. So this situation is a getting started one. So This person's a stay-at-home mom, two young kids. They live in Illinois. We have a house and a car. I have no income. I'm scrambling to find a job. Can you just sell the house, the car, out for me? No one's going to sign a loan for me to take over both payments. I have an appointment with an attorney on Thursday. I know that they will answer a lot of these questions, but it's Tuesday and I'm panicking about me and my kids. Any advice?
Well, I can only tell you for California, but in California, you can't just it can't just be sold out from under you. You'd have to have notice and due process. I mean, and I assume that's the same in every state. If an asset is joint and you can't afford to take over the loan, then yes, ultimately it probably will get sold, but not immediately. The court has to have multiple hearings. There has to be um, other issues discussed like support, because maybe you need financial support and, so you can get a new place. So there's a lot of considerations. So, you know, unless you're not making the mortgage payments and the property's going into default and going to be foreclosed upon or some other kind of financial emergency, usually things don't just get sold immediately.
All right, next one. This sounds like a happy ending here. I'm officially divorced, just a hair after the required waiting period, as requested. No alimony, no child support, everything evenly divided and without struggle because we're able to cooperate well and wanted to just ask for things that we needed. That's been fine, and I trust him. He'll have the kids primarily, and I'll take them the summers and several times throughout the year while I'm overseas. I've started the process of changing my name to something I've always loved. I applied to the school I wanted to go to for the things I wanted to learn, and I'm in to, I started losing weight and I'm less anxious. I'm a better mom. I am no longer half of a unit. I am one person. I am whole by myself.
Well, that is a positive one. Sometimes you can look at divorce as a new start and a chance to do things you wanted to do that you couldn't do before. And it sounds like that's what that person did. And she is starting her new life and moving on. And it's a positive inspiration story for people that feel, you know, hopeless and sad about the divorce. That's a positive story of how you can just start a new life after and a new chapter and do the things that you wanted to do that you couldn't do.
All right, so we got here. So we're happy now. We're coming down. I did the pet custody one about cats. So we've been separated about 4 months. Live and work from my apartment. Mentioned to my ex, I was thinking about getting a cat to hang with. Not a real cat person, but they're pretty kosher and easy to look after, I guess. She said not to do it. She lives at home with two cats and a dog as well as the kids most of the time until we get a co-parenting schedule that sticks. I know you're going to say, who cares what she says, get a damn cat. And I will. Just curious why she would be against it. Not like it affects her life. I should mention the dog. I guess they have a dog. It's 15 and pretty much done. Oh, and the cats are kids' pets. That's why I'm thinking about one of my own. It's a little confusing there, but I don't know, kind of pick things out a
Interesting.
little bit.
Well, a lot of times people will get pets because they think that will make their children happier, more comfortable when they're with them at their house. So her resistance may be that she thinks that will make the kids want to go over more because they'll want to see the pet. And she doesn't want the kids to go over more. I see that a lot.
Um,
It could also be that she feels overwhelmed with the pets they already have, and she was hoping he would maybe take some of them. So that could be another issue too. Um, you know, um, but I find that typically it's probably more related to, I hear all the time, oh, he got a new puppy, he's just bribing them. So it may be related to that.
all right, we have time for one more here. This is okay. This is one where okay, for those that amicably divorce, how long did it take to get over your ex? So Separated for 1.5 years and divorced for 6 months. Honestly, it was easier at the beginning. I felt free. I traveled. I saw my friends and family. It was good. But now that I'm back in the routine of working and all, I miss her so much. I keep
Mhm.
seeing things that time makes it easier, but as time passes, it seems to get harder for me. And don't get me wrong, I feel pretty happy about my life and all things considered. My work is good, family and friends are supportive, but I can't just seem to get her out of my head. I went on one date and it went pretty well, but she wasn't my ex, and that's not fair to someone to keep stringing them along if they're not giving 100%. I guess what I'm asking is if you ever did get over your ex, how long did it take, and is it okay to truly never get over the person?
Wow. I mean, I think that varies for everybody. It can take a very long time. I think I once heard like a rule of thumb of like half the time you were together. So like if you were together 10 years, it's normal for it to take like 5 years to get over
Oh,
that person. I don't know if that's true. That's just a rule of thumb I heard. I think I actually heard it. I don't know if you ever listened to Loveline back in
yeah. I've
Dr. Drew.
heard you know the radio. I think like in the morning. Okay.
Dr. Drew's the one. Said that. But anyway, so, but yeah, it's different for everybody. And it's totally normal to always have some love for that person that you shared such a special relationship with. I think many people do. Um, you can move on and you can be in love with somebody new, but you might always have love for that person from before in your heart. And I think that's totally fine and normal.
All right, that's all the time we have for today, and we'll see everyone next week on the Modern Divorce Podcast.